Hello, and welcome to the training about the Modify with CED program. I'm Tina Faber, the Program Manager for the Modify program. Modify is a part of the West Virginia University and WVU Health Sciences Center. We're also part of a national network called the Association of University Centers on Disabilities. The CED has several roles that include education and training, technical assistance, direct services, dissemination, and research. Modify falls into the direct services role. CED has a presence in all 55 counties. We have 13 programs and 3 clinics and approximately 90 staff. We have an office in the northern part of the state called CED North in Morgantown, and an office near Charleston called CED South in Big Chimney. On the map presented on the screen, that also shows where our other staff are located, and they may be in local DHHR offices. So, what do Modify specialists do? Basically, we provide independent living and post-secondary education services. I'm not going to read the screen to you. You're welcome to read it yourself. And for those of you that are DHHR, we can serve as a primary worker or as a secondary worker. If there are any boarding care payments being made, then we are a secondary worker. Modify is a part of the array of Chafee-funded services. Other providers include DHHR, HRDF, which stands for Human Resources Development Foundation, YSS, Youth Services System, and ASO Services. Modify changed its name a couple of years ago, probably about 5 years ago, to differentiate itself between the funding stream Chafee and what our program does. Chafee is not exclusively Modify and does include these other services and the activities that DHHR workers are required to do when transition planning begins at the age of 14. So let's talk about Modify. Modify stands for Mentoring and Oversight for Developing Independence with Foster Youth. You can't talk about youth transitioning out of the foster care system without talking about the outcomes they experience. We know anecdotally that the outcomes are poor for youth who age out of the foster care system, but this graphic shows you a good idea of just exactly what they look like. 1 in 5 will become homeless after the age of 18. Only 1/2 will be employed by the age of 24. Less than 3% will earn a college degree, and 71% of young women who age out of the foster care system will be pregnant by the age of 24. But Modify is a buffer against these poor outcomes, and I'd like to take this opportunity to talk about the protective factors. That is something that we're going to be incorporating into our practice and providing training to other child-serving professionals, foster parents, and so forth about things that we can do to help adolescents overcome their traumatic experiences and thrive to be successful adults. So, again, the purposes of the Modify program is an independence program. A lot of times when youth are in the care and custody of the state is seen as their parent and is taking on a parental role. Our program is a little bit different. We are about personal responsibility and self-sufficiency. We provide services and supports that helps a youth transitioning towards adult independence and personal responsibility. We do not function in a parental role. So generally, Modify eligible youth include any youth who turns 18 years old while in a foster care placement. Any youth adopted or placed in a finalized legal guardianship on or after the age of 16 years old. And then for youth in DJS care, they are typically not eligible unless they were in a DHHR foster care placement immediately prior to incarceration. And in that case, they are not eligible for IL subsidy, but only for our education services. And the best thing to do with that is if you have any questions, contact us and we can clarify whether the youth is eligible or not. Our program has two program options. We have an education benefits that you will see on the left-hand side of the screen, and then we have independent living benefits that you will see on the right-hand side of the screen. Generally speaking, for our education benefits, those are available to those youth who aged out at the age of 18 or were adopted or legal guardianship at 16 or older. It includes the Education and Training Voucher, or ETV as we call it, the computer allowance, if not provided by the DHHR worker, foster care tuition waiver, and FAFSA independent status, and we'll go over all of those things in detail. Our independent living benefits are only available to children who have aged out of the foster care system at the age of 18. And that includes what we call the independent living subsidy, which can be up to $900 for an apartment and $1,100 startup to get the youth squared away with the deposit, first month rent, and that kind of thing. And independent living benefits do require an FC-18. Education benefits. The purpose of these benefits is to assist a youth's educational attainment. They're generally available until the youth is 21 years old. They can be extended to the age of 23 if the youth is enrolled and making progress in a post-secondary educational program before they are 21 years old. FAFSA independent status. FAFSA stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. And this is the application that every youth who wishes to go to a post-secondary institution has to fill out to get financial aid. And youth in our program must have financial aid applied before we can pay anything. And so what FAFSA independent status does is it allows the youth to be counted as an independent person, and their parents' income is not counted. That is important because it qualifies that youth for a total financial aid package. They'll receive the full amount of the Pell Grant and will be eligible for loans, and we discourage loans, but in some instances they are necessary. Foster care tuition waiver. A lot of times people get confused and think this is a funding stream. This is not. This is a piece of legislation that was passed that says public institutions have to waive the cost of tuition for youth who have been in foster care for at least 1 year prior to the waiver and graduated or obtained their high school equivalency while in the custody of DHHR. The schools apply this according to their institutional guidelines. Sometimes it is the entire cost of tuition, sometimes it is not. The law says that it does not cover room and board, the cost of books, or other fees. Education and Training Vouchers, or ETV, is the heart of what Modify does. These funds are up to $5,000 per year, and I say that it is up to $5,000 per year because it's based on the cost of attendance and how much financial aid the youth is awarded. There's a formula that we have to follow so that we do not exceed the cost of attendance for a youth, and so they may not be eligible for the entire $5,000 a year. And that's important because a lot of youth think that, and a lot of workers think that it's just a check that we write for $5,000 per year, and it doesn't work like that. Education and training vouchers are to cover school costs first, and financial aid must be applied first before the ETV is applied to the college or vocational institution. ETV can cover the cost of a computer, special clothing such as welding boots, welding helmets, nurses' scrubs, those types of things, textbooks, housing if they're not under a FC 18 and receiving the independent living subsidy, and transportation. That includes car repairs, car insurance, and those expenses up to the amount of $1,100. If the transportation expense is more than $1,100, then, or the car repair, then that usually signals that the car needs to be replaced. ETV also is known as a subsidy. After all of the educational expenses are covered, it can be broken into monthly payments up to $200 for the youth. In order to receive the education and training voucher, the youth had to have aged out of foster care or been adopted and placed in a legal guardianship from foster care on or after the age of 16, and they must be attending an accredited post-secondary educational program. We encourage you to contact the Modify specialist to determine if the school that the youth is looking at is an accredited agency, because some institutions, even though they may take the Pell Grant, are not accredited programs and eligible for the ETV. There's specific guidance from the federal government that we have to follow, and that goes into whether the school is eligible for ETV expenses or not. The Computer for Graduate Allowance, this is for youth that are in custody and have graduated from high school or get their high school equivalency while in foster care. The amount this past year was $500, and that goes towards a computer and computer supplies. And we really like for the DHHR worker to give this to the youth before they are discharged from care, because they can use the independent living services and supplies line item, and that doesn't interfere with their ETV allotment. In addition to independent living and ETV things, we do want to take a moment to talk about medical benefits under the Affordable Care Act for former foster youth. The Affordable Care Act provides Medicaid to former foster youth that aged out at the age of 21 up until the age of 26. It's important to know that FC 18 Medicaid coverage may differ from Affordable Care Act Medicaid coverage, as Affordable Care Act Medicaid coverage may have co-pays and deductibles and that sort of thing. Youth can apply by attesting to their former foster care status at any DHHR offices, the website, En-ROADS, or the customer service number. So, to talk about independent living services, these are only available up until the age of 21, and they are only available to youth that have aged out of the foster care system at 18, and they had to be in a foster care placement, not just in legal custody. Independent living includes the monthly subsidy, the startup funds, and of course we'd like to take this opportunity to talk about West Virginia FAM, which is West Virginia Foster Advocacy Movement, and this is a youth-driven effort that Modify supports of youth, former and current foster youth around the state that are working on issues affecting them and issues that affect the child welfare system. Independent living services do require an FC-18, and it's important that we don't talk about placing the child back into the custody of the state. The FC-18 should be explained as a contract between the youth and the department, where the youth will work towards their transition plan and the department will continue to provide financial assistance. The FC-18 can be terminated if the youth does not comply with the modified program and meet the program participation requirements. It will be terminated at the age of 21. There are no exceptions to that. And if the youth ends up becoming incarcerated, then the FC-18 can be terminated. And again, the independent living services start at $200 a month if the youth is residing in a dorm, and that is because their meal and utilities and things like that are already being paid. And it can go up to $900 a month if residing in an apartment. The FC-18 also provides continued medical coverage and one-time startup funds. And the important thing here is that those one-time startup funds are limited to $1,100 across the life of the case. So if the youth is going into a dorm room and needs all of those things to get ready for college, you know, the comforter and the sheet set and the towels and the shower curtain and all of those things, then we can do a payment to help provide for that. But once they're ready to live out on their own, they're only going to have about $700 available for a first month's rent and deposit. So our workers work with the youth to make sure that they understand that and to spend those funds in a correct and efficient manner. So let's talk about requirements for Modify services. To receive the education and training voucher, the youth must be enrolled in a post-secondary educational program. And this does not have to be college. It can be a vocational program, as long as it's a year in length. They have to complete 80% of the coursework that they register for, and they have to maintain a 2.0 GPA each semester and submit their budget and maintain contact with their worker. If they are unable to do this, they will be given a semester of probation to bring their completion rate and GPA back into compliance. And if they do not succeed in that, then they will be discharged from the program. It is important to note that a 0 GPA, or a zero bomb as we call it, is an immediate discharge because that signals that the youth did not go to class or make any kind of effort towards that semester. Now, I will say that the youth can come back into the program before their 21st birthday after a discharge if they complete a semester on their own and do that semester with a 2.0 GPA, and they have to do it before they turn 21. If they do that, then they can be readmitted and allowed to continue receiving ETV benefits up until the age of 23. For independent living subsidy, the youth must be employed in an employment program that is helping them reach self-sufficiency, such as an internship or an apprenticeship, or enrolled in an educational program. They have to submit their monthly budget and maintain contact with their worker, and be engaged in at least 40 hours a week of activity related to achieving independence. This can include things such as working with HRDF, writing their resume, volunteering, working, those sorts of things. And if the youth are full-time students, then they do not need to do the productivity, but those students who are employed must be employed full-time or complete 20, if they're part-time, then they would need to make up their time with productivity, and we do that using a productivity report. Referrals to the Modify program should be made for any youth who will likely be in foster care until they are 18 years old and have obtained their high school diploma or GED. They should be made 6 months prior to graduation or the GED date, and the youth can submit their own referral, the worker can submit the referral, or the placement can submit the referral. A lot of times there's confusion that they have to be enrolled right when they turn 18. That isn't true. As long as they can get in a semester before their 21st birthday, then they are eligible for the program. And a lot of times youth will want to leave care. They don't want anything to do more with the system. And then they go home and they struggle for a while, and then they make the decision that they want to do something with their life. Please let youth know that they can contact Modify on their own. Our current referral form is always found on our website, and the website is listed on the screen. And you can also search West Virginia Modify on Google, and that will bring up our website. You're also welcome to contact the local Modify specialist and make the referral that way as well. Referrals can be submitted via phone. We have a 1-866-720-3605 number, or you can fax them to us at 558-4563. You can email it to us at modifyced@hsc.wvu.edu, or you can give the referral to your local Modify specialist. Once the referral is sent in, it is entered into FACS, and we establish eligibility, and the intake is assigned to a Modify specialist. The Modify specialist then contacts the youth and schedules a time to meet. And during that meeting, they explain the program and complete the application. And then this is where the personal responsibility part comes in. The youth is expected to apply and complete their college applications as well as the FAFSA. The Modify worker is there to help them with that, but not to do it for them. The youth has to submit to the worker the FAFSA completion letter, an acceptance letter to a post-secondary educational program, and complete a FERPA or Parent Portal access so that the Modify worker can check enrollment, the account, and grades. For more information or to make a referral, please give us a call at 1-866-720-3605. We thank you for your attention today and hope you'll have a great day. Goodbye.